This is the Manny Matsakis Show with me, Manny Matsakis, where you will gain insight on how to win on the field and optimize your life. This is episode number 9. In this interview, which I did at the American Football Coaches Association convention in Nashville, I spoke to Jason Phillips. Jason Phillips is the passing game coordinator at Utah State and a longtime friend of mine. We go way back, and it's interesting, and you'll hear some of our stories in this podcast today, where he actually came to New Jersey and worked a camp of mine, a run and shoot football camp. And he is the finest run and shoot receivers coach I've ever seen, and he is doing a fantastic job at Utah State. So without further ado, here's Jason. Well, I'll tell you, I am so excited about this. Jason Phillips is here.
How you doing, man?
My man. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. Pleasure to be here.
Well, you know, it's funny. After the introduction I gave on you, I wanted you to just give some details on a few things about your career. And it's fascinating to me. You were, arguably, as a player, one of the best receivers ever in college football. And people don't realize, it doesn't take. There's not a lot of receivers that are sitting in a ring of honor in their stadium at the University of Houston. Right. You know, so there's, you're up there with some other great players, Heisman Trophy winner like Andre Ware.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you had an interesting path just to get to Houston.
Sure.
Because you're from Houston,
correct?
Right. So just let's start with that. You played high school ball in Houston,
correct? I was high school ball in Houston, Texas, Houston Sterling High School.
That's right.
I graduated in 1985, and like you said, my path here was a little different than most, but it's a path that's out there for a lot of people. I was sitting in the coach's office one day, and Al Baldock, the head coach at Tabb Junior College at that time, came through looking for a couple guys, and had a couple guys on this list. And fortunately for me, those guys decided they didn't want to go to Tabb Junior College. Actually, one of the guys already had a scholarship to Oklahoma, and the other guy was going to Southern. So my head coach kind of mentioned him to me and kind of showed him some video, and I was playing quarterback at the time. And so Coach Baldock said, hey, look, I'm not looking for a quarterback right now. Have you ever played receiver? Yeah. And I indicated to him, Coach, I'll play whatever you need me to play. You give that typical response. So anyway, long story short, he kind of doubled back, and there was an opportunity for me to join TAF. And so I went out there and with the intention of playing receiver the first year, but some things didn't work out at the quarterback position. So I ended up playing quarterback my first year. So that was kind of...
So junior college quarterback.
Yeah, junior college quarterback. I never would have thought that, right? So, but anyway, did pretty well, played the Potato Bowl, and was all conference quarterback and MVP, and that kind of led to the off season. I wanted to work out and continue to work on some things. Obviously, gym rat type of guy. I'm gonna work on my passing and get better there. And the funniest thing happened. Coach Baldock kind of called me in his office one day, and this is where my life changed. And basically said, Jason, here's a list. And he said a list of paper. He slid it to me and basically gave me a highlighter and said, hey, I'd like for you to highlight all 5'9" black quarterbacks in the National Football League. And so obviously, I took that piece of paper with the intent of finding what he described, and wasn't able to do that. So he then slid me another list and said, hey, now I'd like for you to highlight for me all the 5'9" receivers. Mm-hmm. And man, I was able to do that. I was highlighting this guy, Clayton Duper, all these guys. Oh, yeah. And so I looked at him, I said, I got you, Coach. And that's when I started playing receiver.
Yeah, that was the beginning of really what got you to where you are today as a fantastic football coach. And I just want to get a little bit more into your playing career, because it's easy for me, and people will understand, I think you're the best receiver coach in the country at any level. I mean, and there's no doubt in my mind. I've seen some really good ones in the NFL. There's none better than you. And I know it's hard for me to tell you that, but I've seen enough guys, and I get it. I mean, but it's like the path towards that. is different when you've been a fantastic player, because not all great players become great coaches, and I'll get back to that in a second. But let's go now. So you go to the University of Houston, right? Mm-hmm. Take me through that, because you got 2 seasons there, right?
Yes, I only have 2 seasons. So as I go in there, my mindset's a little different. I mean, I understand the and I hate using the word urgency, but I understand the sense of purpose that I have there, and so I go in there the first year with John Jenkins and Jack Pardee and pretty much an entire NFL staff, and had the pleasure of playing for Ron Calcagney and Carl Hargraves. Those are the 2 guys that basically mentored me while I was there playing the position. And I think the biggest thing for me in being there was the fact that they were NFL guys, a place where I aspired to be and play one day. And they kind of nurtured and cultured my attitude as far as the approach of what you have to have. And it's something that I like to do today with the guys that I have an opportunity to coach. Is that this was, for me, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was perfect training grounds. If you want to be a pro, you have to do things a certain way. You have to act a certain way. You have to prepare a certain way.
What are those ways?
Well, I mean, basically, you have to be committed. You have to understand what it is you're getting yourself into. There's not a situation where you're responsible for your actions, your accountability, and being able to inspire others and listen to teammates and be able to play within a structured environment. I mean, those are the things that I had the fortune of learning when I was with those guys, and that's the things you try to you teach guys today, is how to do those things. So, that experience was second to none. I wouldn't give that back for anything in the world, because it was a part of my growth. It was a part of my development, and it's basically the things I learned there as a player is the things I do today. And very regiment, very detailed, very organized in how we did things, how we were structured. Andre Ware was probably one of the greatest competitors that I've ever been around, from the standpoint of a guy that basically came in as they recruited him as. A lot of people recruited him as a DB. Oh, sure. And finally ended up playing quarterback for us through some injuries and some disappointment with some other guys. And, his story is remarkable as well, and eventually winning the Heisman Trophy. But as far as being a competitor, I mean, he was the guy that you drop one of his passes, Manny, not only will you hear about it, but it could be a physical confrontation.
So, what we need to do in the future, and we'll set this up in Texas, so the 3 of us get together and just have one great podcast.
That'd be great, man, because I know he'd love to do that. He loves talking football. He loves talking run and shoot, and he definitely loves talking about his competitive spirit. I just remember dropping a pass once, and here he comes. He snatches his helmet off, and he's running down the field, and I'm like, oh, my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I get it, man. I know I dropped a pass. But there was a lot of great experiences there that kind of developed me to where I am today and what I am today.
So great career at the University of Houston, and then you move on to the next level, right? And tell us about that.
I tell you what, that was a very fortunate, great experience there, being with June Jones and Miles Davis. I had the pleasure of playing for both those guys, and the big thing for me, and the thing that I think that allowed me to play in the number of years that I played there, was the fact that when I went in Detroit my rookie year, I didn't have to learn anything. The system was the same, the calls was the same. The only thing that Miles used to get on me about is the landmarks, right? Because I didn't quite understand the landmarks of the NFL field, and compared, they were different, right? The hashes were mainly different. So when we communicated, the way we talked in terms of 4 yards outside the hash, or 2 here, 3 yards from the boundary. So all those dynamics, all those dimensions changed in the NFL by just the hash marks themselves and the numbers.
And the uprights are different.
Exactly, uprights and all that. So that was the only learning curve for me. So, and then again, just going into a new environment, and you're one of 2 guys drafted. There's 25 receivers in the room, and they're only keeping 8. Yeah. And out of the 25 guys, is three rookies. Wow. Right? So you're sitting in this situation, and the biggest thing for me, and I tell young guys, you don't have to be first in line all the time. So I took a back seat every day and just kind of watch veterans play and try to learn the game from their perspective and watch them. And when the drills came around, I got in line last, and I was able to see who did it right, who did it wrong, what the coaches were able to say. And so
good insight. I see that. Yeah.
Because I already knew what I was doing. I just wanted to make sure I did it right where it was pleasing to other people. So yeah, man, it was a great experience. And
now at Detroit, Was that Mouse's first year up there
Yes.
as OC?
Yes,
Right?
it was. It may have been. I'm not sure if it was his first year, but I think Mouse was there
Okay.
prior to me.
We're talking about
coming up.
Mouse Davis.
Mouse Davis,
People
correct.
out there.
I think he was already there, and then I came in. I think June may have been June's first year.
Okay.
Those guys
So
getting
Coach
together.
Fonts was the head coach?
Coach Fonts was the head coach.
Okay.
Correct.
And you had a pretty good little super back.
We did. Barry Sanders. So,
Yeah, he wasn't bad.
No, he wasn't bad at all. I mean, he was actually a great guy. And to have in the locker room, we lockered next to each other.
Yeah.
I actually lived with him for about 2 to 3 months at his place. I mean, he's a great guy. Just
Oh my God! I'll tell you, it's funny, and just to step aside, I can remember when I was at Kansas State, we played Oklahoma State, right? And I think it was our first conference game, and they came into Manhattan, and they had just graduated Thurman Thomas,
Right.
So he was gone, and it was just because they were right after each other. Or they actually overlapped a little
Overlapped,
bit, right? And then it was, and I believe, we're punting to this guy, and I don't know. I think he had 3 returns for touchdowns that day,
that
and he ran
surprised
for
me.
almost 300 yards against us. And I was
Yeah.
like, who is this guy? And then I after the game, I just sort of walked by him. I don't look down at a lot of people. But it's like,
Right. He was one of them.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've kind of had a similar experience with him, actually an identical experience with him in my first year at Houston. We played Oklahoma State in the opener. And actually Thurman Thomas was there. And so Thurman kind of ripped us pretty good, and they put this backup guy, Barry Sanders. And it was like, we've been kicking and punting to him. It's like, man, quit kicking and punting to this guy. But, yeah, so we kind of experienced both of them that year.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I mean, and so you're at Detroit. You guys really, the offense was clicking. Silver stretch, you had it going. Right?
Yeah, we did. I mean, it was.
What years was that?
This was 89 and 90.
Okay.
Yeah, so my rookie year was 89, and my last year there was 90. So offensively, we were doing pretty well. Obviously, you got a guy like Barry Sanders that kind of helps out a lot of things.
Yeah.
Rodney Peete was our starting quarterback
That's
at that
right.
particular time,
Yeah.
and so we were doing some things offensively. You could see we wasn't quite where we wanted to be, but you could see that we were on our way to being special.
Yeah, and then you're all of a sudden you depart the Detroit Lions and
Yeah.
you're a Falcon, right?
I'm a Falcon. It kind of, I don't know. I wouldn't say where I welcome in Detroit. I just think guys got opportunities. I know June Jones got an opportunity to join Jerry Glanville again in Atlanta, and
That's
so
right.
he did that. And I was one of the guys he called, and I was actually a free agent at the time, and so he called and asked what I would like to come with him to Atlanta, and so who could pass that up an opportunity to play for June Jones again.
Yeah.
And I knew the type of system we were going to be running. So, I mean, just kind of all the pieces just kind of lined up.
Really?
Yep.
No doubt. And it's and as we get through, and afterwards you went to Canada and played and all
Sure.
this, and that was just a different experience. But I think when you look at Atlanta, the one, I don't know, the sort of neat thing for me is to realize that how big a deal practice is.
Right.
Okay. And the guys that you practice against, how you make each other better. Great
Right.
teams do that.
Sure.
Right. So you're playing receiver.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pretty good player on the other side of the Falcon, on the defensive side.
Yeah.
Side you guys would go against each other on a regular basis,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. We decided. I mean, it was by choice actually.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders. So yeah, he's on the other side, and you got to understand the NFL. I mean, it's the NFL. I tell kids all the time, just kind of be careful what you ask for. If that's something you aspire to do, there's nothing wrong with having aspirations to do that, but understand what you're getting yourself into, and it's a game of lions. Everyone's lions on the field. There's no gazelles out there at all.
No.
And you'll get eaten alive if you don't come in with the right attitude and the preparation and commitment to what it is you want to do. And so it was a challenge for us every day. I mean, we used to fight over who get a piece of Deion. I mean, we all used to fight over that, because you knew this is one of the greatest guys of all time. I mean, you could tell that this guy was special. And having the opportunity to go against him every day, and he has this running joke. We see each other all the time. The first thing we do immediately is to take a stance against each other. He'll get in his stance, I'll get in my stance, and that's how we greet each other. And because that's how we were every day. It was about business. It was about making each other better, like you said. It was about practicing the right way in order for us to have a chance on game day.
Oh yeah.
And he says it all the time. That he never got the card because I ran a lot of scout team for those guys, and he never got the card because I knew how much work Deion put into studying and preparing for his opponent. So there was no need for me to give him the card. He already knew the card. So,
sure, yeah.
So
exactly.
then, the quarterback we had was we had Brett Favre was there for us for a little while, but Billy Joe Tolliver and I used to work together quite a bit against the defense. And so whatever the card said, if it was a curl, he may have gotten a curl and up. All right, or curl dig. He never got the card. So, and those are one of the things that you hear him talk about. Those are things that kind of help him prepare and help him be as great as he were in his career. I mean, the guy mentions me in his Hall of Fame speech, which I think is pretty special.
Yeah,
so
no doubt. Yeah, and that's tremendous. So great career, all this stuff, and then you get into coaching, right? Why? How'd you get into it?
It was simple for me, Manny, just growing up, man, just kind of reflecting and looking over my career career as far as an athlete, just looking back from my days in a small town in Crowley, Louisiana, and how coaches invested in me, and going to high school and coaches invested in me, and college, obviously coaches invested in me, and I just felt the love for that. I just felt the love for the coach-player relationship, and that's just something that I aspired to do. I wanted to be there for my players the way my coaches were there for me, and that's always been the driving force for me in this profession and why I do what I do on a daily basis. And it doesn't really matter where. I have a slogan that I like to use. Every player needs a coach that believes in them, and I had that throughout my entire time playing this game, and it just a way of paying it forward, man, just being involved with these guys' lives, helping change lives, because a lot of these guys don't understand, that how sports can directly affect their lives, their commitment and playing the game the right way, or just committing to doing things the right way will transform their entire lives, So just bridging those gaps, man, has been very special.
Yeah, I can definitely see that you've done that. And so your first coaching job was?
University, well, I got into the business at the University of Houston. Dana Dimmel was the head coach at the University of Houston at the time, and I came back to finish my undergrad. And he gave me an opportunity, man, allowed me to be a part of his program at that particular time. And, I met some great people. Obviously you, of course, doing that experience. And, and from there, just doing and being passionate about what I was doing, some people took notice. And so one of the guys on the staff, Bradley Del Pivoto, knew a guy over at Texas State. And they were looking for a receiver coach at the time, and I got a recommendation from Coach Pivoto. And so my first job was Texas State in 2002.
That's right.
So, it was pretty special.
Yeah,
first opportunity to work for Bob DeBest.
That's right. Yeah. So after that,
I was only there a year, and it was kind of funny, man, because when I was preparing to go to that job, our athletic director, Dave Maggard, at the time, basically told me to don't unpack one bag. Dave was bringing me back to Houston.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
that was pretty special, right? Because that's kind of the place where I wanted to be in my alma mater, and just kind of do the things that I wanted to do there, because it's such a special place for me. So anyway, I was only at Texas State for a season, and then I came back to the University of Houston with Art Browse. Yeah. And I was there with Art Browse for 3, maybe 4 years. And then from there, went to Baylor for a year, and then returned back to Houston with Kevin Sumlin. So I was with Summy for, 4 years there, and then had an opportunity to leave there and go to SMU and work for June Jones. So that was truly special, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. So now, what are you doing?
So now I am the passing game coordinator, wide receivers coach at Utah State, working for a great guy by the name of Gary Anderson in Logan, Utah. Yeah. That's been a eye-opening experience for me. Just the simple fact of seeing another part of the country, another part of the world. I've seen as much snow in the first year I was there than I've seen in a lifetime. So for me, that's a little different. Oh, yeah. But the experiences never change. How you interact with players, the why, why you do this is still there every day. It's present every day, and you want to see these guys succeed in whatever it is they want. And your job as a coach is to mentor your players to get them to as close as reality of their dreams that they want as you can provide for them. So, I mean, it's fun. So no matter where you do it, if you're doing it for the right reasons, you'll enjoy doing it.
I agree. And that's really what it's all about. And, when you look for I mean, I know your recruiting speaks for itself, and that's a big part of the game today.
Sure.
You do a great job in Louisiana and in Texas, Houston, Dallas areas specifically. But, when you're looking for a young man out of high school, or you get the kid out of junior college, whatever it might be,
Sure.
what are the characteristics of a receiver that you can take and help him get to where he can't even imagine he can be?
Well, I tell you, man, it's not as difficult as you might think, right? And to me, it's a coaching personality, right? So I would describe that in like this: there are some coaches out there that like finished products, guys that are 5-star, 4-star, whatever the case may be. He's 6 foot, whatever the measurements are that he's looking for, and he run as fast as he like for him to run. And so there's minimal work that he has to do. Me, on the other hand, I look for a guy I want a tough guy. I want a tough physical guy that loves playing football. And I'm not necessarily looking at some of the traits. I mean, because those are the things, they're coachable traits. Okay. And I've watched over the years and experienced over the years and was a part of over the years. I've watched John Jenkins shoot thousands and thousands of balls at us through jug machines and taught guys that couldn't catch how to catch.
That's right.
And so those intangibles, right, you look for me, toughness, loves the game of football, loves to compete, and as coachable, as willing to learn. Anything else that can be fixed.
Yeah,
So
I agree. Yeah.
So if you're committed to your players, you'll get the best out of them.
Now, what's been the most, if you could pick like a particular player that you have coached, mentored, coached, that you're the most proud of the gains that this guy has made over his career, from when you got to him to where he moved on, and whoever it may be. But and what did you notice about where they started and where they ended up?
Well, I'll tell you what, the first guy that comes to mind, and I'm sure a lot of the other guys are going to be upset because their name's not going to be mentioned here, but just recently, my last year at Houston, I would have to say Patrick Edwards.
Yeah.
Patrick Edwards is a guy that was a walk-on for us at the University of Houston, and you can tell he had those traits that we talked about earlier. I mean, he was a guy that loved football, was very coachable, and committed to being great. He was physical in the sense that everything he did it the right way. I mean, he ran hard, he finished hard, he blocked hard. Everything he did was physical. He had just a physical presence on the field. Now, he wasn't the biggest guy. He was only 5'9.5", maybe 5'10", and he had great speed. Well, he had good speed. I wouldn't say great, but it was good speed. He was under 4.5 guy. So, but anyway, his commitment to being the best was the thing that I noticed right offhand. Obviously, Coach Sumlin noticed it, and so we awarded him with a scholarship. And then from that point on, from a walk-on kid, a kid that also, you guys may remember, broke his leg in the Marshall game.
That's right.
And ran into a structure there. But from that point in time, went on to become the all-time leading receiver at the University of Houston. So that was a big feat, considering all the receivers that's come through there.
There were a few.
I was fortunate enough. Now, Tyron Carey is another guy that comes to mind. Guy that came in as a blue shirt or gray shirt at the time we recruited him with Art Browse, and just to watch his maturity and how he matured as a player through the Art Browse transition, coming in with Summy and Dana and Cliff and all those guys, just watching him mature and be a player. And same thing, he was physical. He had a physical mindset. He had a commitment. He loved football, and now he's a receivers coach at the University of Houston. Has won the receiver award in college football, for receiver coach of the year.
Oh, wow.
And just to watch his, maturity and throughout his career, I'm very proud of him too. And he set a number of records at the University of Houston as well. And it's just been a joy, man, to watch guys. Like I tell people all the time, and I've broken the records at the University of Houston twice. Once as a player, and then once as guys I coached. So it's kind of fascinating and enjoyable to kind of go back through those record books and kind of see yourself along with a long list of guys that you've coached.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's pretty incredible.
Now, when you look at we talked about where you've been, and who are some of your key influences in coaching? Obviously you've had a great trip.
Sure.
On the way. It's nowhere near done.
Right.
So it's like, who has influenced you the most, and in what particular way?
Well, as a coach, you're always looking to get better. You're always looking to see who's out there doing some things that's innovative to kind of help you out in your career and how to reach and affect lives as far as reaching your kids and that kind of deal. So, I mean, I've had several guys along the way. June Jones, I would have to say, is probably the biggest influence on me and the biggest mentor throughout this profession. But I can't mention June without mentioning guys such as Ted Gilmore, the receivers coach at Wisconsin right now. When I first got into business, him and Carnell Jackson, those guys kind of just took me in and just kind of showed me the ropes. And, that's the one thing, I'll say this and I'll sidetrack this a little bit. That's the one thing that I don't see a lot of in coaching in this profession anymore is older coaches mentoring younger coaches. Yeah. And I think that's a lost art. I think that needs to be, it needs to be more of that because I was very fortunate to be where I am today because I had that. And just kind of watching how it is today. So everybody, they want to get to the top and they want to do things for themselves to get there. And, I hate watching coaches criticize other coaches and not taking necessary steps to mentor those guys in order to get it done the way they want to get it done. But, June Jones, getting back on that, John Jenkins, obviously, his offensive mind was brilliant. He has a brilliant offensive mind. Just the way he taught us at the University of Houston, the way he made us do things a certain way, and it just helped propel us into being the best and not being fearful of any type of defense we were going to face, right? And just a quick note on the run and shoot offense, just so everybody here can understand, It's an offense to where you go into a game and the defense is wrong. The minute they jog on the field, they're wrong. And I like to say this is that, the only thing that can stop an air raid or run and shoot type system is personal error. It's not schemes. You can't stop it scheme-wise. The run and shoot was never stopped by scheme. It was always personal error, whether it be a drop ball or pass interception or fumble, a missed block here and there. But it was never because of scheme. You know? So.
No, I've seen it, lived it, enjoyed it, and and I think, as we talk about like the run and shoot itself, because there's not a whole lot of people doing it anymore, and at the major college level, I know I'd say Hawaii, Nick is doing it out there,
sure,
Rolo, and not really anywhere else,
right?
There's people dabbling in parts of it.
Yeah.
And some of them don't even realize that's what it is,
that's
which
exactly
I always
right.
think is funny, But that's if you don't study history, how would you know?
Yeah, that's a true statement.
But the offense in and of itself, what I have noticed is there's also a certain air of confidence, not cockiness, confidence.
Sure.
That must come in order to execute at the top level, the highest level. And it has to come from the top.
Sure.
I mean, it has to come from the head coach.
Sure.
From the, coordinators, position coaches, every single guy. And it is not, having been around, obviously, the run and shoot and the air raid, they're different, and it seems to me that in order to do it, it may be more difficult to be a run and shoot team than an air raid team.
Yeah.
It initially, because like one thing I noticed is like it's just not around as much.
That's right.
So nowadays these high schools are running air raid, and
that's right.
They're doing it. So and it is different to me in a way that the way you have to understand spatial relationships, the width of the field, the landmarks, and so forth.
That's right.
The adjustment of coverages, as opposed to you just it's reads as opposed to progressions, those types of things.
Correct.
And you've been in both sides of that deal.
I have.
I mean, you've been around Hal and June.
Exactly.
Two of the Mouse, obviously.
Mouse, obviously, yes.
He's the greatest.
And a
of all
bunch
time.
of Leach descendants.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, from Dana and all these
That's
guys.
right.
Yeah. So it's like, what would be your take on the two systems? I mean, pros, cons. Can the run and shoot still get going today, or what? I mean,
absolutely. There's no reason why I wouldn't believe that the run and shoot could keep going today, because as you mentioned, Hawaii is still doing a lot of it, and they're very successful.
Sure.
June Jones, obviously, in the XFL, he'll be doing something with it. The differences to me, I mean, obviously, both those are families, correct? You got a run and shoot family and an air raid family, and unfortunately, they're a tight-knit family.
Yes, as we know.
Yeah, exactly. So they're a tight-knit family, so they're not willing to give away a lot of secrets or invite a lot of people in and kind of, show people what they're doing. The only guy that obviously has done that, and in certain degrees, he's probably been alienated because he's more forthright and forthcoming with a lot of the information in the air raid system. And I know John Jenkins was not giving you information in regards to the run and shoot. But I think because of that, there's a lot of people that are uncomfortable with it because they don't know it. And it's hard for someone to commit to doing something that they're unfamiliar with. And so when you get head coaches that are, worried about playing complementary football and those types of things, to where, defensive-minded guys, they want to slow it down, and, so offensive-minded guys, defensive guys are mad because you're not considering us in this preparation and practices and those types of things. So it's become a tug of war between offensive and defensive coaches. But there is a place for both. And you watch the success that they're having with their air raid. I mean, obviously it's the latest and the hottest thing going. So a lot of high school coaches and a lot of people are gravitating toward that because that's the new.
Yeah.
And so people are doing that. The Boise State system, when Oregon was doing what they were doing, and they kind of put some stuff together to what Oregon run game and air raid pass game, and so that's a new nuance. I mean, a lot of people are doing that, but it's all a derivative of the run and shoot. From what I can see, just sitting in those meetings, there's a lot of similarities in what the base product may be, but then you got guys breaking off and adding their own spin to it, which I think is great. It's added a lot of excitement for football. I mean, it's what we need to do, and we need to keep the competitive edge on offense to kind of stay ahead of the game and keep making these defenses change each and every year. So, but I think there's a place for both, and it just boils down to whatever particular head coach, what his level of commitment will be to that system, because you have to commit to it because it's completely outside the box.
Well, it is, and I know I've been through, ebbs and flows of it over years, being primarily, run and shoot, but it's more of unless you got, I think both these offenses are similar in this fashion. Unless you have a trigger man, a quarterback, both of them can be really bad.
They can be.
But I mean, it's hard because if you can't deliver the ball downfield and make the I'm not talking about mentally as much as just physically. If you don't have that guy that can do it, I've seen some of the most brilliant minds look very pedestrian.
Correct.
And it's not their fault. They just haven't developed the young man, or they haven't recruited him, or haven't really put the guy in there. But that quarterback position is critical. But then again, if you don't have those linemen, it don't matter who the quarterback is.
That's a true statement, Manny. And I think, a lot of it has to do with the development of the player. I think a lot of guys, like I mentioned earlier, you have to go into it with the development of the player. That player he wants to be coached. And he needs to be developed, and you have to go in there with the right mindset to help develop that guy. I mean, I'm a fundamentalist and technique guy. I mean, that's one of the things that I've always prided myself on. I'm going to go into a system and learn whatever system it is you want to run, and I'm going to coach my guys to learn that system. But if they don't have the fundamentals and technique, I'm a firm believer they can't execute any system. And because it all starts with fundamentals and technique.
There's no doubt. It is funny, and it's sometimes I think we get so caught up in the X's and O's and all that, and it's tremendous, fascinating. I get it, but it's like I can remember way back years ago when I was coaching at Hofstra, who doesn't play football anymore, and and I had these receivers there, I'm running the run and shoot coming in, and we had Wayne Corbett, who played for us there, and what I think when I was younger, I understood even more that of it's all about fundamentals, drills, and skills.
That's right.
Even though it was also about this is the stretch, this is how we do these crazy things. That really you guys were the only ones doing that, because I think my year, the 3 years I was at Hofstra, was 91, 2, and 3.
Okay.
So that was right after you guys. Yeah. So I had all y'all's film and everything, and that was the things I was studying at the time. And then Mouse was out there with the Knights coaching in the World League.
That's right.
So I got a chance to go over there. But it's like where I started, it clicked for me, and I don't know if you have any similar occurrences in your career, I started watching basketball practices,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking, dang, look what they're doing.
Yeah.
Drills and skills
It's
over
funny.
and over and over. And, and then when I was in Lubbock, I'd see, we had Bobby Knight was our basketball coach.
Mm-hmm.
I'd watch the practice, and I'm like, Hall of Fame coach, but it comes down to drills and skills.
Exactly.
So what can you do to develop that? I mean, have you ever...
Yeah, I mean, obviously our run and shoot practices with drills and skills. I mean, we kind of broke the offense down. How we practice every day with John Jenkins, it was broken down into segments.
Yeah.
And it was broken down into route segments, okay, whether it was choice route, whether it was switch route, or whether it was a dig route, okay. Or whether it was bubble, all right. So it was broken down into segments, and it was all drills and skills. I mean, it was all the net drill was a drill and skill. We ran routes into that net, and it was funny, because I kind of do a lot of similar things today as far as how I teach, but it's all connected. It was all connected as far as the drill was connected to the route. You ran a certain drill that was connected to whatever route.
Yeah, if you're running go,
exactly.
Here's what we're doing.
Here's what we could do. Here's the drill we're doing. We're running go, and it was that way for me as a player in the system, and a lot of people have gotten away from that. They're teaching more scheme now. I mean, the scheme to me, the guy that wins is the guy that has the pin last.
Yeah,
right?
In a scheme,
In a scheme,
no doubt,
right?
yeah.
But drills and skills and fundamentals, there is no pin with that. That's work.
That's right.
And you get that work. You put that work in, and that kid gets better. You develop things, and kids have gotten away from playing multiple sports. They don't do that anymore. To develop all the basketball is a big tool. That's 1-on-1. Develop your release skills to playing basketball. Kids don't do that anymore. But you get to develop all of your physical skill and your cognitive skills because you think in different games. So you're playing different games. So you got to think different games. When you're thinking games, then you understand situations.
And it clicks.
Yeah,
I hear you, Jason. I mean, the more I think about it, it's fascinating. I'm excited about where you're going in your career.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic that you have been out of the state of Texas for a little bit. And I think it's good. You've met some great coaches along the way, sharpening your craft. I mean, that's the deal. It's all about that. And I think, your guys are fortunate to have you there coaching. I know, wherever you are, you make it the best it's going to be.
That's right.
And that's what I've seen. That's the trail you've led,
yeah.
Along the way. And I hope everybody out there that is watching this and obviously listening to it as well on our podcast, it's, you have an opportunity in life to be around some really special people. And I'm fortunate that we have hooked up over the years.
It's been definitely a benefit to me in my career, man. Just our friendship and relationship over the years. You're a guy, and I know that I didn't mention that in the piece, but you're also a guy that when I have something, I always call you and run it by you as well. Like, look, what do you think? What do you think? So that's definitely it lifts a burden when you have people that you trust that you can call and talk to about certain decisions that you make that will ultimately change and change your life, and that's what we're here to do.
Well, and I know it's been another thing. I guess I'm gonna give them some inside info right now. Okay, a lot of guys don't realize this. We would do something and have done this numerous times, where we'll be on a what's called a Zoom call.
That's right.
Right, and it's just a private call, you and me, video.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. And I've got the film on, and I've got University of Houston, 1988.
Yeah.
And we're watching it, and I record it.
Yeah.
Right? And we talk through the routes, and then I can show you, here's my film at Hofstra or wherever it was, and it's like we'll sit there for hours.
Yeah.
Just watching film together. I'm in Philly or Ohio, wherever I'm at. And you're wherever you're at.
That's
and
right.
it's like we're sitting like this.
That's right.
Right? And those things are that I record those, and then I go back and I study them. It's like, I get it, and I think it's sort of neat that we can help each other out, and our friendship, I think, is, one of those deals. I mean, it's forever deal. I mean, I'll I'd do anything for you. So it's like, when you do this, I think in coaching, I think that is an opportunity for guys out there, if you're not already doing this, and is to reach out to people.
Yeah.
And once you have a great relationship and you're open to sharing stuff, there's so much more we can do.
Man, there's so much more we can do, and none of it's ours. I mean,
Yeah.
we're
No.
talking about something that was here before us and it's going to be here long after
That's
us,
right.
right? And that's the thing that really, it amuses me at times when guys claim things. That's fine, but
Yeah.
it's none of it's ours, and so I love talking about it. I mean, those times for me has been, I look forward to that.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a commonality, and we're talking about something that we're both interested in, and that's football, and that could be anything. I mean, I'm sure guys can call each other and talk about the veer. I mean,
doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter, man.
It's funny. I love you say none of it's ours. You know how many times I'll be speaking at one of these glazier clinics or something like that. And somebody comes, hey, aren't you the guy that invented the jet sweep or something? Because years ago we were like majored in that stuff, right? And I go to them, I'd love to tell you that that's the case, but let me show you this book. And I always used to carry this book. It was, it was a book written in the early 1950s called Spread Formation Football, by a guy named Dutch Meyer, who was the head coach at TCU. And he's had Sammy Baugh back there at quarterback and all that. And I said, look at these pages, but, you just flip through it and watch him do this. And it was like, that's where I got the idea.
Right.
So a lot of this stuff is like, it's like you can learn from one thing to another. You talk about a Gus Malzahn, he's, he has a cool different offense, right?
Sure.
But it's the single wing that he put in and spread it out, and he's doing that. And I think, he'd be the first to tell you, you learn from others.
Exactly. It goes back to what we said earlier, man. He's a guy that can learn from others, but put his spin on it, and he's committed to it.
That's right.
And that's what people do. If you're committed to something, you'll make it great. When you have ownership of it, you'll exhaust every possibility to make it great.
When you can't sleep at night.
That's exactly right.
Because you've got this idea, and it's over and over, and you're just convinced it's it.
Destroying defenses.
That's
fun.
it. That's what you do. I love it. I love it. Well, I want to thank you for coming on.
Man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's always my pleasure for sure. And, I think for everybody out there, this segment certainly helps you understand how to win on the field. And when I come back, I'm going to share with you some tips and insights on how to win in life and optimize your life. Because it doesn't matter. You can't be single focused on football and then you don't take care of yourself.
That's right.
And
you helped me a great deal with that too.
Well, that's what we do. And, and I think, we together have helped each other out through so much. So I think, great opportunities out there. And I'll be right back with a few tips and reminders, as they say in the industry.
Right. Sounds good, man.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that was an awesome interview. And I'll tell you what, now it's time for our tips and reminders, where we wrap up each episode with some information you can utilize to optimize your life. And in this case, it's really a solution for dealing with muscle cramps. And it's one of our secret weapons I've used with athletic trainers here. And it's pretty neat because what we use is an essential oil called lemongrass. And that's what she looks like right there. All right. This is a very warming essential oil. In other words, if you put it directly on your body, it will feel like it's burning your skin a little bit. And lemongrass is used oftentimes by runners and anybody when they have deep muscle cramps and issues like that. But the key to using this is to make sure that you dilute it. And what we do is we will dilute it with fractionated coconut oil. So we'll pump that in. So we'll just take a couple drops, just like this, just maybe a drop or two right there. Boom, there we go. And then we'll put some of that oil in there with it, and that just dilutes it. So now it's not burning your skin so much. So then you basically take it and you can put it on before, in a preventative way. And it smells just fine. I've even had people that, and this specific one here, you can actually, if you're into Thai cuisine, you can put a drop in your in your Thai food to get a lemongrass flavor, and it's very powerful. So you just need one drop. So that's how that works. And myself, there's sometimes like I'm in training camp and you're working long days and so forth. And what I've done is, I'll be there. I'll always keep this in my room at night, because sometimes I'll cramp up. You're out in the heat of the day and you cramp up in the middle of the night. I've had like literally cramping up. So I will use the lemongrass dilute it with the coconut oil, and a lot of times, like, you get a body cramp, or like around the rib area or something like that. You just put it in, and it literally it happens. It brings it down fast, and I like to have that there for myself as well. So, just make sure you hydrate, but even then, hydration isn't always enough to handle that. So that's how I use lemongrass myself and in the program. Now, I want to thank you for coming on the Manny Matsakis Show and enjoying this episode. If you're listening to this podcast, make sure to subscribe in iTunes, give us a rating, and comment on the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Manny Matsakis Show. Hit the bell up in the top corner there, and you will get notifications when we release the next show. We also have all types of things on the YouTube channel, not just this podcast. Feel free to comment below on this specific podcast, and then I will answer it in a Q&A on another podcast. If you'd like to get all kinds of updates, go to our website at mannymatsakis.com, where you will be up to date on Mondays. This podcast goes out in the audio version. Wednesdays, we usually release a blog post or some type of an inside access feature. And then on Fridays, this video is released every Friday, so you get a chance to catch the video version of this. So feel free to go to our website, subscribe with your email, and along with your regular alerts, you'll receive my latest report, Fill the Stadium, for a limited time only, because we won't always have that as a freebie for you when you sign up. So it's basically a 30-some page report on a coach's secret formula to build your program and fill your stadium to capacity.